Jason and Emily's life looked like something straight out of a dream. They lived in a beautiful house on a quiet street where neighbors waved hello and kids played safely in the yards. To anyone who knew them, Jason and Emily seemed like the perfect couple. Jason was a hard-working engineer, known for his calm nature and dedication to his job. Emily was charming and outgoing, a lifestyle blogger with thousands of followers who admired her for her style tips and friendly personality. Together, they had created an image of happiness and success that many envied. Their social media pages were full of pictures showing vacations to exotic places, romantic dinners, and family gatherings. Jason and Emily posted pictures of themselves smiling together, holding hands, and celebrating life's milestones. They seemed so in love, the kind of couple people hope to become. Friends often told Jason how lucky he was, and Emily's fans praised her for having such a supportive husband. But beneath the smiling photos and happy posts, cracks were beginning to show, ones that no one outside the house could see. Jason had started to notice things that didn't make sense. Emily's phone would buzz at strange hours, and sometimes she quickly hid her screen when he came near. She often made excuses to stay out late or said she was working on blog projects, but Jason's gut told him something was off. He tried to ignore his feelings, not wanting to ruin the peaceful life they had built. Every time he thought about asking Emily directly, a small voice inside warned him to be careful. After all, trust was the foundation of their marriage, and Jason wasn't ready to give that up. Despite his suspicions, Jason kept pretending everything was fine. He told himself that maybe he was just being paranoid, that the late nights and secretive messages were all part of Emily's busy life. He wanted to believe the woman he married, the woman who laughed with him on lazy Sunday mornings, was still the same person. For months, he carried this growing doubt quietly, not even sharing it with close friends or family. It was a secret he kept locked deep inside, where it could not hurt anyone, or so he thought. Meanwhile, Emily's life seemed to get busier and more complicated. She started accepting invitations to exclusive events and dinners, often leaving Jason at home. She posted less about their personal life and more about her public image. Slowly, the happy couple's story became less about us and more about her. Jason felt himself slipping further away from the woman he once knew, but he still held on to hope that it was just a phase, that things would go back to normal soon. One evening, Jason came home earlier than usual from work and noticed Emily was not there. Her car was gone, and the house felt strangely quiet. He tried calling her several times, but she didn't answer. Hours passed, and Jason's worry grew. When Emily finally returned late that night, she was distant and avoided his questions. Something inside Jason broke a little more. The next morning, the quiet neighborhood was shaken by the news of an upcoming TV show that promised to reveal shocking secrets about local celebrities. Jason had no idea that this show would soon turn his life upside down. What he didn't know was that the perfect life he and Emily had built was about to crumble, exposed on national television for all to see. That night, as Jason sat in his living room scrolling through his phone, a single headline caught his eye. The TV show was airing a special episode about betrayal and hidden affairs. Among the stories was one that would change everything. Emily's name appeared on the screen, linked to a scandal that no one expected. Jason's heart raced, and a cold wave of disbelief washed over him. The perfect life was nothing but a fragile illusion, and now the truth was out in the open. The morning after the TV show aired, Jason woke up feeling a heavy weight pressing down on his chest. The world outside seemed normal. The sun shining, birds chirping, neighbors going about their day. But inside his home, everything had changed. The episode he had seen the night before was no longer just a story on television. It was now the center of a storm engulfing his life. Emily's name was everywhere, and the images from the show haunted him. The footage had revealed her meeting a wealthy businessman in hotels and private places, far from the life she had portrayed to everyone. The evidence wasn't just vague rumors. It was clear and undeniable. Calls and messages started flooding Jason's phone almost immediately. Friends and acquaintances who had heard about the episode reached out with shocked voices and whispers of gossip. Some offered sympathy, but many were filled with judgment. Jason felt exposed and humiliated, as if the whole town was watching him, waiting for his reaction. He kept the phone on silent and tried to focus on his work, but his mind was consumed by images of Emily smiling in secret, the betrayal cutting deeper than he had ever imagined. The TV show's reporters had done their homework. They had tracked Emily's movements for months, showing viewers footage of her sneaking out late at night, meeting the businessman in expensive hotels, and exchanging gifts that no husband would have approved of. The show didn't just hint at an affair. It painted a detailed picture that left little room for denial. Viewers were left with a clear message. Emily had been unfaithful, and she had hidden it expertly. Jason struggled to understand how Emily could live a double life so openly, yet so secretly. The perfect wife who had once shared dreams and plans with him was now a stranger in his own home. He replayed moments in his head, her late-night texts, secret phone calls, and sudden changes in her schedule, and felt a painful mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. Was there ever a genuine moment between them? Had everything been a lie? The public reaction made the situation worse. Jason was no longer just a husband betrayed. He was suddenly a figure in a scandal that had captured local attention. Reporters began knocking on his door, neighbors whispered behind closed curtains, and social media users speculated endlessly. The couple's once private life had become a public spectacle, with Jason caught in the center of it all. But despite the humiliation and betrayal, Jason remained silent. He refused to speak to the media or respond to gossip. His mind was focused on one thing: finding the truth. Jason's friends urged him to confront Emily, to demand answers, and stop living in the dark. But he hesitated, unsure if he was ready for what he might discover. The man who had once trusted Emily without question was now afraid of facing her. Every day, he watched her move through their home with a strange coldness, as if the woman he loved was hiding behind a mask. The trust they had built was shattered, replaced by suspicion and fear. As days passed, Jason noticed changes in Emily's behavior. She became more secretive and distant, often leaving the house without explanation and refusing to talk about the show. Her phone was always on silent, and she deleted messages quickly. It was clear that Emily was hiding something far bigger than just an affair. Jason's heart pounded with fear and anger. The TV show had exposed the surface, but beneath it lay deeper, darker secrets, secrets that could destroy them both. The revelation from the TV show was only the beginning. Jason's life was unraveling, and the path ahead was filled with uncertainty and danger. What started as betrayal was turning into a mystery that Jason couldn't ignore. The man who once believed in love and trust was now forced to confront a painful truth that could shatter his world forever. The day after the television episode aired, Jason found a small folded envelope slipped under his front door. There was no return address or signature, just his name written in neat handwriting. Inside, a single sheet of paper contained a chilling message. Emily's affair was just the beginning, and there were darker, more dangerous secrets she was hiding. The letter hinted at illegal activities tied to the businessman she was involved with, money laundering, secret bank accounts, and threats against anyone who tried to expose them. Jason's heart sank. The betrayal he felt was now tangled with fear and uncertainty. At first, Jason thought the letter might be a cruel prank, but the details it mentioned matched the few odd things he had noticed about Emily's strange behavior. She had been distant, evasive, and had recently received mysterious phone calls that made her anxious. Suddenly, everything seemed to fall into place. The affair wasn't just a private betrayal. It was part of a dangerous web involving people who would stop at nothing to keep their secrets safe. Jason's emotions were a storm. He was furious with Emily for hiding so much from him, but also terrified of what she might be involved in. The normal rules no longer applied. Jason realized that confronting Emily directly could be risky, but he couldn't just sit back and wait. He needed to understand the full story, what was really happening behind the closed doors of their home. One night, unable to sleep, Jason decided to follow Emily. He waited until she left the house, then quietly got into his car and trailed her from a distance. The drive took him to a part of town he barely knew. Dark streets lined with old buildings and empty warehouses. Jason's mind raced with questions, but he kept his eyes on the car ahead. Emily's vehicle finally stopped in front of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Jason parked a few blocks away and watched through the shadows. Emily stepped out of her car, looking cautious and nervous. She entered the building, and moments later was joined by the businessman from the TV show. But she wasn't alone. Several other men appeared, exchanging briefcases filled with cash and documents. The meeting seemed secretive and tense, a far cry from the glamorous life Emily projected online. Jason's breath caught as he realized that Emily's affair was just the surface of a much bigger picture. She wasn't simply cheating, she was involved in something illegal and dangerous. The money exchanges, secret meetings, and hidden alliances painted a dark portrait of a life he had never imagined. Suddenly, a noise behind him made Jason freeze. A figure stepped out from the shadows and grabbed his arm. Before Jason could react, he was pulled toward the warehouse entrance, and Emily's eyes locked onto his. The shock on her face was mirrored by the panic rising in Jason's chest. Their secret was exposed, and neither could escape the consequences now. In that tense moment, Jason understood how deep the danger ran. What began as personal betrayal had become a perilous game involving criminal activity, lies, and threats. The choices he would make next could change everything: his marriage, his freedom, and possibly his life. The peaceful world he once knew was gone, replaced by a dark reality where trust was broken and survival was uncertain. Jason's heart pounded as Emily's eyes met his in the dim light of the warehouse. The tension between them was electric, charged with fear, anger, and disbelief. He had never imagined that following her would lead to this moment, standing face to face with the woman he thought he knew, caught in the middle of something dangerous and illegal. The other men quickly noticed Jason's presence, their expressions shifting from surprise to suspicion. The businessman, cold and calculating, stepped forward, assessing the situation with a quiet menace. Jason felt trapped, his mind racing as he struggled to find a way out. He wanted to ask Emily why she had hidden all this from him, why she was involved with these men. But the words stuck in his throat. Instead, the reality of the moment hit him. This was no longer just about betrayal or heartbreak. This was a serious crime, and he was in the middle of it. As the men exchanged glances, Jason realized that any sudden movement could put him in danger. He slowly backed away, but one of the men blocked his path. The businessman's voice was cold and firm as he warned Jason to stay out of their affairs. The threat was clear. Any interference would have consequences. Jason's blood ran cold. He had uncovered a secret far bigger and darker than an affair, and now his life was at risk. Overwhelmed by shock and fear, Jason left the warehouse that night feeling more lost than ever. He knew he couldn't go to the police without proof. And even if he did, the businessman's reach was long and dangerous. The man was powerful, with connections that could silence anyone who spoke out. Jason was trapped between protecting himself and exposing the truth. Days passed in a blur of confusion. Emily became even more distant and secretive. She stopped, answering his questions, and avoided his gaze. Jason's anger boiled beneath the surface, but so did his pain. The woman he loved had not only betrayed him, but dragged him into a world of crime and deceit. He wondered how much she had truly cared, or if it had all been a lie from the start. One evening, Jason found himself alone in their living room, staring at the photos on the walls, their wedding pictures, happy moments frozen in time. It was hard to believe this was the same woman who now hid dangerous secrets. In that moment, a wave of despair mixed with rage overwhelmed him. He reached for the gun he kept locked in a drawer, a symbol of protection he had never imagined, using against the person he loved. When Emily returned home later that night, Jason confronted her with the harsh reality of what he had discovered. His voice was steady, but filled with pain. Emily, cornered and desperate, tried to explain, but Jason's trust was shattered. The tension escalated quickly, emotions spiraling out of control. In a moment of blind fury and heartbreak, Jason pulled out the gun. The room fell silent except for the echo of a single shot. The aftermath was devastating. Emily lay lifeless, on the floor, the weight of their broken lives pressing down on Jason. The man who had once believed in love and trust was now facing the irreversible consequences of betrayal and rage. Jason called the police himself, knowing there was no turning. Blackout. As officers arrived and took control of the scene, Jason's world crumbled around him. The quiet suburban life was shattered, replaced by flashing cameras, questions, and judgment. The story that had started as a private nightmare was now a public tragedy, one that would haunt the community for years to come. But even in the darkest moments, the truth remained tangled in secrets, and the full story was yet to unfold. The shooting shocked the quiet neighborhood to its core. News of Emily's death spread quickly, turning Jason from a grieving husband into a suspect in a high-profile murder case. Police arrived at the scene minutes after the fatal shot was fired, and Jason was taken into custody without resistance. The community struggled to understand how a couple who seemed so perfect could end in such tragedy. Media outlets picked up the story, broadcasting every detail and speculation, feeding public fascination and judgment alike. Jason's arrest marked the beginning of a long and painful journey through the legal system. The prosecution painted him as a jealous husband who lost control after discovering his wife's affair, while the defense argued that Jason was a broken man, driven to the edge by betrayal and fear. But behind the courtroom drama, there was more to the story, hidden truths that would soon come to light and change everything. During the investigation, police officers searched Emily's belongings thoroughly, uncovering a locked phone she had kept secret from Jason. When the authorities finally accessed it, they discovered a series of voice recordings Emily had made. These recordings were shocking. Emily had been gathering evidence against the businessman she had been involved with, planning to expose his criminal activities to the authorities. She detailed illegal money transfers, threats against her life, and her growing fear that the man's power extended far beyond what anyone suspected. The recordings revealed that Emily was not just a victim of her own mistakes, but had been trying to break free from a dangerous world she had become entangled in. She spoke of a plan to go to the police, to finally bring the truth into the light. This revelation shifted public opinion and complicated Jason's case. Instead of being seen solely as a jealous husband, he was now a man caught in a web of crime and betrayal, struggling with impossible choices. The businessman was soon arrested after the police used Emily's recordings as evidence. His empire began to crumble under the weight of accusations, and investigations uncovered a network of illegal activities involving bribery, money laundering, and intimidation. The truth about Emily's involvement, while complicated, painted her as both a wronged wife and a whistleblower, risking everything to expose a criminal enterprise. Jason's trial became a tense battle between justice and sympathy. His defense team argued that Jason acted in a moment of extreme emotional distress, overwhelmed by the shock of discovering not only his wife's affair, but her involvement in something far darker. The prosecution insisted that taking a life could not be excused, no matter the circumstances. As the trial unfolded, the community grappled with mixed feelings. Some saw Jason as a tragic figure destroyed by betrayal, while others believed he had crossed a line that should never be forgiven. The story served as a powerful reminder of how secrets, lies, and hidden dangers can destroy even the most ordinary lives. In the end, the court's decision would determine not just Jason's fate, but how the public understood the complicated, painful story behind the headlines. It was a chilling tale of love, betrayal, danger, and the devastating consequences when trust is shattered. The perfect life Jason and Emily had built was gone, replaced by a legacy of heartbreak and unanswered questions that would haunt everyone involved for years to come.